Hi everyone. I never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but here we are. I caught my husband cheating on me with my best friend. Yes, the same woman who stood by my side through everything: birthdays, heartbreaks, even our wedding. I walked in and saw them together, and in that moment, my whole world fell apart. This is the story of how I found out, what I did next, and why sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. They say when something feels wrong, it probably is. And I felt it long before I saw it. Daniel and I had been married for 4 years. People called us that couple, the ones who always looked so in love, smiling in photos, hosting dinner parties, finishing each other's sentences. I used to think they were right. We had this quiet, safe rhythm: coffee in the mornings, Sunday drives, his hand always reaching for mine when we crossed the street. But the rhythm changed. It was subtle at first. He stopped sending me good morning texts. Then he started working late a lot. I told myself he was just stressed. His company had taken on a new project, and he was in charge. That's what he said anyway. And I believed him, because why wouldn't I? This was the man who once drove an hour just to bring me soup when I had the flu. But the distance grew louder with time. The way he looked at me, or rather, the way he didn't. The way he forgot little things: our anniversary dinner, the show we were supposed to binge together, even my favorite coffee order. Small things. But small things add up. Then came the nights he came home smelling like something unfamiliar. Not his usual cologne. It was softer. Floral. Feminine. The first time, I didn't say anything. I just hugged him a little tighter, searching for the man I remembered. But he barely noticed. The real turning point came on a random Tuesday morning. I was cleaning up after breakfast, just like always. His coffee mug sat on the counter, and I went to rinse it, and that's when I saw it. A faint smudge on the rim. Red lipstick. I don't wear red lipstick. I stared at it for what felt like hours, my hands trembling under the faucet's cold water. It was such a small thing, such a ridiculous, cliché sign. But in that moment, I knew. My heart didn't break, not yet. It paused, like it was waiting to see what I would do next. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, soaking in the silence of our kitchen, letting the truth sink in like spilled wine on white linen. And then I did the one thing I never thought I'd do in my marriage: I started watching him. Closely. Not as a wife, but as someone who knew she was being lied to. And I waited. Thursday. I remember the weather: humid, with that heavy gray sky that feels like something's about to happen. I woke up next to him like any other day. He was scrolling through his phone, already half-dressed. I kissed his shoulder and told him I had to stay late at work that evening. He nodded, barely looking up, muttered something like, "All right, babe." That's all. Just 2 words. He didn't ask why. He didn't offer to pick me up. He just grabbed his bag, his keys, and walked out. As if I were part of the background. As if I didn't matter. I sat in bed for a long time after the door closed. Then I got up, got dressed, and drove across town to a little cafe where nobody knew my name. I ordered a coffee I didn't drink, opened a book I didn't read. I just sat there, staring out the window while the hours crawled by. My mind was loud, but my body was still, as if I'd trained myself not to react too soon. Not until I was sure. At exactly 6:03 p.m., I stood up, left a tip on the table, and drove home. But not all the way. I parked 3 blocks from the house, far enough that the sound of my car wouldn't betray me. I walked the rest of the way, heart pounding in my chest like a drum. The streets were mostly empty, quiet except for the wind in the trees and the occasional dog bark in the distance. I kept my eyes on the house, my house, and it looked normal. Peaceful even. The porch light was already on. The curtains in the kitchen were drawn halfway. It looked like nothing had changed. But something had. I took a long breath and stepped closer to the back of the house. The kitchen window was slightly cracked open. I could hear the low hum of music playing inside. Jazz, the kind he used to play on our slow Sunday mornings. That alone made my stomach twist. And then I heard it. Laughter. His laugh, that soft, lazy laugh he only used when he was truly relaxed. And then hers. A woman's. Familiar. I froze. There's a sound your body makes when it knows something before your mind does, a kind of silence that slams into your ears and takes all the air out of the world. I leaned closer, just enough to see their silhouettes. Two figures. Close. Too close. Wine glasses in their hands. Moving like they belonged in that space. Like they had done this before. Like it was their kitchen. And then I heard her voice clearly for the first time. Claire. My best friend. My bridesmaid. The woman who held my hand on the day I married him. I didn't scream. I didn't burst in. I didn't run. I just stood there in the shadows as their laughter poured out through the open window and wrapped around me like a noose. And I thought, they didn't notice I came home early. I heard their laughter from our kitchen. That was the moment I stopped being his wife and started becoming something else. Something stronger. The next morning, I woke up with a weight pressing down on my chest. The kind of heaviness that doesn't go away with coffee or distraction. Daniel was already gone, like usual, and the house felt colder, emptier. The silence screamed louder than any argument ever could. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, searching for the woman who used to smile so easily, who used to believe in us and him. But all I saw was a stranger, eyes shadowed with doubt, lips tight with unspoken questions. I wanted answers, but I wasn't ready to ask. Instead, I started looking for clues in his phone, in his habits, in the way his scent lingered in places it shouldn't. I became a ghost in my own home, quietly unraveling the threads of a life I thought was mine. And yet, even as the pieces fell apart, something inside me hardened. A quiet fury, not born of anger but of survival. I wasn't going to crumble. Not over him. Not over Claire. Not over the life that had been built on lies. That afternoon, I found myself at the gym, the place I hadn't been in months. The rhythmic pounding of my feet on the treadmill matched the beat of my racing heart. Sweat blurred my vision, but I didn't care. Each drop was a small reclaiming of myself. Later, I sat down with a notebook and began to write. Not a letter. Not a confrontation. Just words. My thoughts, my fears, my plans. Because if I was going to fight for my life, my real life, I needed a strategy. And that meant stepping out of the shadows. Daniel didn't come home that night. Instead, I sat by the window, watching the streetlights flicker on, feeling the pulse of a city that never truly sleeps. And I realized something. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about who I was, who I would become. No more waiting. No more pretending. It was time to take back control. Days passed, but I no longer counted them. Time had lost its meaning. What mattered was the clarity I'd found in the chaos, the decision that had settled like stone in my chest. I confronted Daniel the next evening. He was sitting at the kitchen table, the same spot where I had once felt safe, the place where our lives had intertwined like roots of a tree. Now it felt like a battlefield. I know, I said simply, voice steady, eyes unwavering. He looked up, surprise flickering in his tired eyes. No denial. No excuses. Just a slow, painful nod. Claire had been gone by then. I found out through a message she left on his phone, a quiet goodbye to a secret that could no longer live in the shadows. I'm sorry, Daniel whispered, but the words felt hollow, weighed down by months of silence and lies. I wanted to scream, to shatter the fragile remnants of the life we had built. But instead, I felt something else. A quiet release. I don't want to lose myself, I told him. Not anymore. The days that followed were filled with difficult conversations, honest, raw, sometimes bitter. We agreed to separate, not out of hatred, but because love, in its truest form, sometimes means letting go. I packed a bag that night, the rhythm of my heartbeat steady and sure. As I closed the door behind me, I took one last look at the home we shared. It was no longer mine, but I was. And for the first time in a long time, I was free.